another week of the ChathamNC Sports Roundup with Gene Galin, that's me, of the Chatham Journal, Asheebo Rojas of the Chatham News and Record. Today, we're wrapping up the end of high school sports spring season. So Asheebo's going to go into and talk about what he's got coming out in Chatham News and Record newspaper. And the paper comes out now on Thursdays. We're also going to touch on the top 10 Chatham County high school stories. Asheebo has it so that he's got those stories listed from 10 to 1. My list I kind of grouped together. So what we'll probably do is have him go down the list. I'll say, hey, here's what I agreed. I think we're going to agree on a lot of stuff, but hey, we will give you a rundown. The other thing too is we will probably be taking off till at least the end of June, and then restart up sometime back in July. We want to thank everybody for watching. We have consistently over 500 folks watch us every week. Thank you so much for doing that. The other thing too is, even if we're off, Asheebo's still on Twitter X, so you can still follow him at AsheeboR38 on Twitter. His audience has grown considerably since he first started here at the Chatham News and Record, so we're happy for him about that. All right. Before the other two things I want to mention is I want to let folks know that the Seaforth High School sports moms and families have enjoyed the coverage Asheebo has provided for Seaforth this year. Their tennis team was successful, their wrestling team was successful, and the girls' soccer team was successful. Plus, he's covered the other sports there. So, folks, thank you very much for those kind words. Asheebo is the man. He's the one that's writing all the other articles. And then the other thing I want to say, I was at the Rotary Club luncheon yesterday in Pittsburgh, and they mentioned the picture in last week's newspaper of Coach Graham Stewart sitting next to Layla, consoling her and just talking to her after the Woods lost. Got several compliments on that. So I thought that picture said a lot, and Asheebo did write about that as well in the article about that. So let's get ready to go. I'm going to gray out here and let.
Yeah, before I get started with what stories I got coming out in the paper this week, just want to send a special thank you to all the schools and the communities in Chatham County, Seaforth, Northwood, Jordan Matthews, Chatham Central, Woods, and Chatham Charter. Thank you for allowing me to have access to your teams this year and allowing me to cover them as the best I can and the best I could. I know we had a lot of really successful teams, and we'll get into a little bit more of that today and kind of the best moments we've had from the school year. But just once again, thank you for a really, really great first year in Chatham County. And I'm excited to see what happens in the next academic year with sports here. And I'm sure we'll see a lot more success coming up in the next school year. So, but now just with stories coming out in the paper this week, we have some more American Legion action with Chatham County and Randolph County. They played again last Thursday. And in that one, Chatham County beat Randolph once again 7-4 in a 10-inning battle. And then so we got a game story from that. And then we also have game story from Heroes League Softball, the Chatham County team in that league. They won against South Wake 10-7 on June 5th. And that was another game where they were up in the end of the 7th inning. South Wake comes all the way back and ties the game at 7 runs. And they won that one in extra innings as well. So two pretty good games that we'll have featured in the paper this week from Legion Baseball and Hero Softball. And then we also have our all-state athletes from soccer and baseball. Those lists were released by their respective sports coaches associations last week. So for baseball, we have Aiden Allred, 1A Player of the Year, and all-state for the 1A team. Anthony Lapasi, also all-state for the 1A team, and Ian McMillan, all-state for the 2A team. And then in girls soccer, we have Sophia Viana and Kaylin Erman from Seaforth. They earned 2A All-State honors. We have Amelia Cherry, Sienna Gray, and Layla Norona from Woods Charter earning All-State honors as well. So congrats to all our Chatham County athletes that have earned All-State so far this year. And I think we'll also have some more coming out maybe for other sports, but we'll stay tuned for that. And then we also have the awards from the North Carolina High School Association award ceremony on Wednesday. Some of our award winners from the county include Mackenzie Crossman from Chatham Charter, who earned the Alford Family Golf Scholarship. Kelsey Hussey from Chatham Central. She earned she was one of the uh, eight, I think, recipients. No, one of the four recipients to earn the North Carolina High Schools Athletic Association Scholar Award. And then also we have C4 that's set to win the 2A Wells Fargo Cup, from what I'm hearing. So, yeah, another successful year for Chatham County in sports this year. So, yeah, Gene, anything you'd like to say about kind of what's going on?
No, as you mentioned, I think the biggest thing this season is you have kept busy, and I've kept busy with pictures, is just overall all the schools that you mentioned, Seaforth, Northwood, Chatham Central, Woods, Chatham Charter. I know I forgot somebody. I did. Oh, Jordan Matthews. I'm sorry, Jordan Matthews. All the teams have had exceptional years this year, and some surprise. I mean, you had the story, I think, was it last week or 2 weeks ago, about the kicker at Jordan Matthews, a soccer player who started kicking football, and then all of a sudden he's got an offer for a scholarship from a college. So it is just a neat type of year, unique kind of year with a whole bunch of stuff going on. Yeah, you've heard about Drake Powell and everything, but there's been a lot of other players who just performed well and also will have opportunities play in college. And as you mentioned, all the awards coming Chatham County's way. And I think just about every school has gotten different awards on a statewide level. So Chatham County schools, you're all doing a great job when it comes to sports. Anything else on the sports scene?
Yeah, also for the awards, I want to shout out Jackie Harpum once again. I know we did a story on her a couple of weeks ago when the North Carolina High School Athletic Association first released that she earned the Athletic Trainer of the Year award. So once again, congrats to Northwood's trainer Jackie Harpum on another great achievement in her long career at Northwood. She talking to her, she really wants to stay there, do her entire career there at Northwood after so many years. I think she's done 10 years already, and they love her. She loves the community. And, yeah, she finally earns the award she deserved for all her hard work at the school. Also, I wanted to highlight our athlete of the week this week. It's Emma Burke, who you might know her from the Chatham Central softball team, but now she's playing for the Chatham County Heroes League team this summer. And in their game on Wednesday against South Wake, she went 4 for 5 from the plate and contributed 4 RBIs in that 10-7 win. And then, of course, after Chatham County gave up the 7-3 lead in the bottom of the 7th inning, she doubled to the right field in the top of the 8th inning and knocked in 2 runs to put Chatham County back up three runs. And then I think looking at the stats, just 3 games into the Heroes League season, she already had 7 hits. So she's having a really good summer session with the Heroes League team. And this is their first year having a team with Chatham County in the Heroes League, just putting all those girls together from around the county. They're really figuring out and enjoying playing with each other this summer.
I got a quick question for you. You mentioned athlete of the week. Is that something that's going to continue during the summer, or since it was primarily focused on high school, is that something you're going to take a break to August?
Well, it could continue into the summer now, as long as we have Legion and softball Heroes League playing. But I know some of our other papers, they do, I think, senior spotlights when there's really nothing going on. So you might see a little bit of that maybe later this month or into July before we get started once again with football and our fall sports at the end of the summer.
Right. And folks, that's all in the Chatham News and Record newspaper. It comes out on Thursday, so make sure you pick yourself up a copy of it. And you mentioned all those awards you just mentioned here on the live stream. Those are all in the paper as well, right?
Yes, all of those. Yep, all of those are going to be in stories in the paper this week. And like I said, we already did a story on Northwood's trainer Jackie Harpum a couple weeks ago. So, but yeah, the rest.
So if your favorite student athlete got mentioned, whether it's your kid, your grandkid, your friend, or you're just a fan, pick up the paper and save yourself a copy. I was talking to somebody. Actually, I was talking to somebody who's from 20 years ago has saved their stuff. So, yeah, cut it out, get a couple copies and cut it out and put it on your refrigerator. All right. We ready to go into your top 10 stories, high school stories of the year?
Yeah, so this is also in the paper as well for this week. I've ranked some of our top storylines from the year, and not really specific stories, but just kind of developments and moments from the year that were really memorable, that kind of defined the sports season here in Chatham County. So we're talking about state championships, deep playoff runs, memorable individual performances from throughout the year. And yeah, I have honorable mention. I have 10 ranked from 10 to 1. And I know, Gene, you have your own kind of group of moments that you like to share with us too today. But yeah, you ready to kind of just dive into it?
Yeah. Now you mentioned honorable mention, so that's going to be like number 11.
Yeah, it's one that I wanted to really highlight because I think in this list I don't have a lot of football stuff going on, so I wanted to include a moment from football that I think was probably one of the most memorable just within the county. And I guess we can go ahead and get started with it. And for that one, for honorable mention, I've chosen Jordan Matthews' football win over Chatham Central back in September. And that one, Gene, were you at that game?
I don't remember.
Yeah, I think PJ had shot that game for us. But I mean, of course, coming into that one, both teams, Jordan Matthews and Chatham Central, they were looking for their first win back in early September. And in that, of course, it's a rivalry. So you get there, they got the rivalry music playing. Both teams, warming up, getting ready for that game, and that would end up being, pretty much a slugfest, back and forth with scores, touchdowns, and really at the end, and it came down to a defensive stop. And I think Chatham Central had got the ball all the way down. So I think in Jordan Matthews' red zone, with the threat to score, they were down 30-26 late in the fourth quarter. And I think they took one more shot in the end zone as the final play. And I think it was to Luke Gaines who was killing Jordan Matthews' defense that entire game, the receiver Luke Gaines. And he went up for the ball, but Nick Glover, who also had a really good game offensively and defensively for Jordan Matthews, he knocked it down at the very last moment. They end the game there. Jordan Matthews players running across the field, celebrating their first win of the season in such a hard-fought fashion. I think it was a really great game for Chatham County because it was a great crowd as well for Chatham Central. They kind of filled out there. They had people standing along the fence, Jordan Matthews as well. Just for the rivalry, looking for their first win of the season and the way it happened. Definitely one of the best football games of the year in the county.
Let me ask you this question. And folks, yeah, we're going to go through the top 10, but we're also going to interject because one of the things you ever see a college football season and or a pro football season, and people are always going, well, here's what we predict for next year. What we've seen at Chatham Central and what we've seen at Jordan Matthews, I know Jordan Matthews has a new football coach. Chatham Central had a new football coach last year, and I think Chatham Central is looking to build that up. And I know with JM, they're also got that summer program going for the younger kids. What's your sense? I mean, it's not going to be easy, but I feel that based upon the stuff you've written and the stuff that we've seen on both teams, that next year they're going to be better than they're doing this year. What's your feeling about that?
Well, for Central's case, I think they're definitely going to be a lot better than last year. And I think last year was, in a way, still a good starting point and foundational year for them. The first year with Coach Little. And, that year he came in with only, just single-digit number of players before, just about a week or two before the season actually started. And talking to Coach Little a couple of times throughout the last couple of months, last couple of weeks, he was saying, hey, I got a lot more interest coming. It might not be a worry with numbers come July. So I think that is just a testament to kind of what he's starting to build there. You got kids that want to play football. They're coming out for the program and want to get out on the field. And I think with some of the kids they have coming back, I know they lost a lot of really essential seniors like Devontae Johnson, but I think they'll be. I think we'll see some better football from Chatham Central this fall, and maybe a couple more wins, maybe one or two more wins. We'll see. And I don't expect them to still catapult themselves to the top of the conference or as one of the best teams in the county just yet, but I do think they'll have a little better showing than last season. And then in Jordan Matthews' case with Coach Carter, I think it would just be interesting to see, kind of what he instills, and he's really wanted to, bring the team back to its old glory days from the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. I know he's really wanted to establish like a run game, a physical run game, and bring that to Jordan Matthews. So I think Jordan Matthews could also be another team, an interesting team to look at as well, because they are bringing back some really good players like Nick Glover, from what I know now. And yeah, I think they'll be better as well. Maybe, like I said, maybe still not the best team in the conference or in the county, because I still think Seaforth and Northwood, from the years they've had and what they're bringing back, I think those two teams will be the top two for next year. But I think we will see, a lot more competitive games here in the county, just from what these teams are kind of building on. They're kind of both building up from the bottom once again, and trying to get these programs back on track, to where they once were.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they will be better. Are they going to be at the top of the conference? No. And then the thing about it is, we're not even going to talk about 25 through 26 season, because all the conferences are going to be redone, because you're going to have 8 divisions instead of the current 4. So that's going to be a whole nother discussion, folks. We will be back to talk about that kind of stuff. All right. What is number 10? Or do you have another honorable mention?
Oh no, we can go right into it. I just had one honorable mention. But yeah, number 10 for me is the Jordan Matthews boys soccer team. They pretty much dominated conference play, and just their dominant regular season in the past year. And I think in here in the story I wrote, after taking his first and only loss in the Mid-Carolina 1A 2A conference play to Seaforth, Jordan Matthews ripped off 8 conference wins in a row, including 7 straight shutouts and a 4-0 revenge win over Seaforth later in the year. And they finished 12-1-1 in conference play and made it to the 2A East regional semifinal game. I mean, for a team, with Coach Quadros, he's built a solid program at Jordan Matthews. And this year was really one of those years where they found some really good success. They had a great group of seniors led by defender Jonathan Campos, who will also be playing in the East-West All-Star game in July. But yeah, they just had a really dominant year in conference play. I think after that Seaforth win, talking to those guys, they really that loss kind of woke up a little bit of a monster in them, and was a wake up call, like, hey, let's get together, let's not have this happen again. And they really didn't. They kind of returned a favor to everyone in the conference, including Seaforth, and then put out a really, really impressive playoff run in which they lost to, I think, Franklin Academy in the 4th round. But yeah, I think their season was definitely was definitely memorable to me. And Gene, I don't know if you went out to a couple of games, but the way the community comes out, I mean, the games are always a great time. The fans are always loud. And it's always just, a really cool event to cover if you ever get to go down to a Jordan Matthews boys soccer game.
Yeah, I think it's definitely worth doing. And the thing is, Coach Paul Codros has been out there. I mean, he teaches over at UNC in journalism, but he's also out there, and he's been doing this for several years, and they have had championship teams. So you've got that legacy that continues. So yeah, it's nice to see them continue to be successful year after year in that soccer program at JM. So that's number 10, folks. Hold on, let me get my fingers right. There we go. That's number 10. All right, what do we got for number 9?
Number 9, yeah. Number 9 is Jordan Matthews once again, and this time it's the softball team's playoff run, which I think, I don't know how many people are following their playoff run this year or following their team, but of course they were the co-champions of the Mid-Carolina 1A 2A conference. And a little bit this year, I mean, a theme that followed them around even from the regular season was their ability to come back in games. They've been down in many games, as late as the 6th or 7th inning, and been able to come all the way back in the last moments and win big games. And they did it twice in the playoffs, down 3-1 in the 6th inning against North Johnston in the second round of the 2A playoffs. Lily Hicks, she got a walk-off hit in the bottom of the 7th to complete a 4-3 comeback. And then against Roundup Rapids in the next round, they entered the final inning down 2-1. But then they scored 7 innings. And, of course, they got the necessary outs on defense to finish that one 8-2. So, and I know I think they did it against Bartlett Yancey in the big conference game earlier in the year. I mean, they've just really showed the ability to just not panic, just stay together when things weren't always going their way during games, and come back and win at the end. And they did it a little bit, I think, too, against Chatham Central in the Mid-Carolina 1A 2A conference tournament championship. And that one, I think, of course, Chatham Central and Jordan Matthews always have great battles on the softball field. But I mean, even in those tough games, they found a way to pull it out and win it. So I think just to be able to do that in the playoffs and get to the fourth round as well, as a team that pretty much had to go on the road after the second round, I mean, really impressive for Jordan Matthews softball team this past season.
Yeah, I think you make some good points. And the other thing that's been nice about this conference is the fact you got all the Chatham County schools together, and the fact that the Chatham County schools don't mind playing against each other. Because I know sometimes people in other counties complain, oh, so and so is playing so and so, and those guys are so much powerful. But as you can see here in Chatham County, each school has its strengths when it comes to the different sports. And even if they're not the strongest, they still like to play because I know when you and I are out there at games, you look at the crowds, you got Chatham Central folks sitting next to JM folks. They may be rooting for different teams, but they've known each other for years. And you see the same thing with all the Chatham County schools. So that's nice. And yes, that's fantastic to see that JM's got some good sports going on. All right. So we're now down to number 8. I'm going to give up on trying. We're number 8 now. There we go. What you got?
All right. For number 8, I got Reed Albright, his great year, and at Chatham Central, just him leading Chatham Central to a great year in boys basketball. I mean, Reed Albright finished the season averaging 22.6 points, 9.3 rebounds per game, and of course, he was a focal point of that team. And they finished the season 24-5. They opened the season. I think they made it to the second round of the state playoffs, and they opened the season with 12 straight wins. And in those 12 straight wins, Reed scored 30 points. 3 times. And of course, we had some great moments between Chatham Central and Northwood this year. They gave us a great battle the first half of the first meeting. And I mean, they're pretty much the only team in Chatham County that could run with Northwood just a little bit. Not for the whole game, but give them a bit of a challenge for the first half and even into the third quarter sometimes. But I mean, Reed, just hats off to him for a great year. I think he also got his 1,000th point also during the regular season, and he's coming back for his senior year at Chatham Central, who I think could make a run to win the conference as well, with Northwood still at the top there. But yeah, I think his year, Chatham Central's year with Devontae Johnson as well, Aiden Johnson and Coach Burke, the things they did this year were really memorable, and another great arena. I mean, another great gym to go to cover basketball. Chatham Central's gym is small, but it's intimate. You're right, kind of, right above the court where you're sitting, and it's always loud in there when it's filled up. So, yeah, Chatham Central, their regular season, and Reed Albright season comes at number 8 for me as the top memorable storyline from this year.
Yeah, I had them on my list too because of what they were able to accomplish. And I think the thing that you and I saw when we went at the games, especially when they're playing at home, is they're not afraid of anybody. I mean, you mentioned the Northwood game. That first half, they just went at Northwood. And again, Northwood was a stronger team. And you got Drake Powell, and you got a couple other players on there. I think, let me ask you this again, looking forward to next season, you're not going to have Drake Powell again. Some of the seniors have graduated from Northwood. It should make for an interesting basketball atmosphere here in Chatham County for next season. So what's your feeling what Chatham County basketball is going to look like for 2024-25?
Well, it's interesting because not only this is kind of like the post Drake Powell era now, but we also have a new coach with Coach Barry at Seaforth. I know he's putting together some really cool things with his coaching staff. And he's already gotten started with building that team up from the first day he got hired. So you'll have that going on. Jordan Matthews, I think they're still returning Brennan Oldham and some other young pieces that got some experience for them this past season to kind of fill in the gaps. They'll be losing Kelton Fuquay and their guard Neil Wiley. So I think they'll be an interesting team to look at. As far as a whole, I think Chatham County basketball will be a little bit more competitive. I think Northwood would have a little bit more of a challenge within the county, but I still think Northwood will still come out as the best team just with who they got coming back, and just the culture that Coach Brown has created. Like the standard is always set. I mean, and Cam Fowler, those guys, Cam Fowler, Isaiah Blair, they know that, and also Chad Gray is coming back, another big piece that they have down low. I think they still have a really stacked team if those guys can play to the top of their potential to make another deep run in the state playoffs.
Yeah, and the JV players moving up are pretty good as well. So yeah,
Yep.
it's gonna be an interesting season next year. All right, number 7.
All right, number 7. And for this one, I have Drake Powell, and his he balled out in the John Wall Invitational. His performance in that tournament was really impressive, and I think just the moment of it, and who Northwood played against, who Drake Powell had to go up against, and that one in the first. I think they started with Orange, and in that one he scored 15 points in that win, but then they had Richmond with NC State signing Paul McNeil. In the next game, he led them to a really victory in a really tight back and forth battle, 56-53. And in that one, he put up his season high 30 points, 12 rebounds, and 2 steals. So, I mean, he was just all over the place in that game. And then against Kendra Harrison in Reesville in the championship game, he went for 16 points and 9 rebounds, so a near double-double. And that was another close loss in that one. So he really just battling against the best in the state. Drake Powell showed up. He delivered. Some other players showed up for Northwood as well, like Cam Fowler. He had some really good games for the Chargers in that tournament. And I mean, just like I said, the moment in front of NBA, some of the NBA players, John Wall, other stars in the crowd, and just a packed crowd, a really great basketball environment. Drake Powell put on the show, and I mean, really gave Chatham County really nice representation in front of, like I said, the state's best in the hoop state. So I put Drake Powell's performance from the John Invitation at 7. So, Gene, what do you think about that one?
I think that's a good choice. Again, you're more specific because you write about this stuff. I just take pictures, but yeah, I had Drake Powell. I had Drake Powell on the list just for all the stuff he did, including John Wall. The fact that he signed, and that was a big production in Northwood. I mean, pretty much the whole school came out for that. Just the way he's performed. He also spoke at the graduation. People are looking forward to, and also the fact that he's going to be playing at UNC. A lot of folks are excited about that. I know a lot of your stories got attention from UNC fans because they're like, "Hey, Drake Powell is going to be here." And then I was shooting the State versus UNC game at the Dean Smith Center, and Drake's out there with his parents, and folks are just happy to see him. He got his picture plastered up on the big screens at Smith Center, so everybody's excited about it. And I think it didn't matter which team he was playing in the county. People were coming out to see Chatham County schools playing against Drake Powell, and it didn't matter if you won or lost. It was still a fun thing to watch, and I think that's why I just put down Drake Powell and just the whole Northwood season. So you mentioned the John Wall. That was definitely a top number 7 for you. What do you got for number 6?
Number 6, I got the Northwood and Seaforth girls basketball rivalry that we had during the year. Once again, like I know we kind of talked about it all year, but this was the first year we had Northwood and Seaforth in the same conference because of the new alignment. And I mean, we got to see the girls go at it 4 times this year. So they had Seaforth won both regular season games this year, but the Chargers got them back in the Mid-Carolina 1A2A conference tournament championship game. And Gene, you were there for that one. Just 2 great teams going up against each other. Northwood, I mean, after all year, they pretty much had problems stopping Seaforth led by, Gabby White and her ability to get to the basket, get out rebounded. And it seemed like they kind of got out hustled in those games. But in this one, Northwood brought it to Seaforth in their own place. It looked like it just seemed like they were out hustling Seaforth all night. Just the team that wanted it more, and they got that win in the conference tournament game. But then they met again in the 3rd round of the 2A state playoffs, and Seaforth won that one once again to win the season series 3-1. But just the fact that we got to see those 2 teams battle, the top 2 teams in the conference, and even 2 top teams in the state. I mean, like I said, they met in the 3rd round of the playoffs. I mean, I think that was just a really interesting storyline to follow throughout the year, considering all the just the Battle of Pittsburgh, the Seaforth and Northwood. And for it to, I feel like the girls' side of that this year got a lot more traction and had a lot more buzz than the boys' side as far as, quality of basketball and the games that we saw and kind of what we had for those two teams. So, Gene, what do you think about that one?
I will tell you, I kind of short-sighted that one. I actually, on my list, had the C4 girls basketball team simply because they went higher, but I totally forgot about the fact as to how Seaforth and Northwood butted heads and made for some of the most competitive games around. And you're very right. See, that's why you're a great sports writer. You're very right in that. Yeah, Seaforth won a couple of things, and I think sometimes that happens. And people say it's hard to beat a team three times. You're right. I think they overlooked Northwood, and then Northwood came in there and won one from them. So definitely another good story here in Chatham County. As you said, Gabby's going to be back next year. Gabby's mom is an assistant coach for the UNC women's team, so it's interesting when you see her watching her daughter play, and then you see her sitting at the bench at a UNC women's game over at the Carmichael Auditorium. So another great pick. That's number 6. What you got for number 5?
Number 5, we taking it to baseball and softball for number 5. We have just the spotlight on Chatham Central pitcher for softball, Maddie Karsmachek, and Aiden Allred from Chatham Charter Baseball. I mean, both of them this year just filled the stat sheets and found themselves at the top of a lot of the stat lists around the state here and in their classifications for Aiden Allred. For Maddie Karsmachek at the mound, she recorded a 2.32 earned run average, which was 6th in the 1A East according to Max Preps. She had 169 strikeouts, 3rd in 1A East, 14 wins, 1st in 1A East. And then for Allred at Chatham Charter, he had a .612 batting average, which was 2nd in the North Carolina High School Athletic Association, 46 RBIs, 3rd in the NCHSAA, 52 runs, 5th in the NCHSAA, and 7 home runs, which was tied for 4th in the NCHSAA. So, just phenomenal seasons from those two. And for Maddie, especially for being a freshman, to come in and a team that had a young bullpen, she came out and was a leader for that defense on the mound and did her thing, and still has 3 more years to grow, get even better for Chatham Central. So, really interested to see where she goes. And then for Aiden Allred, he's getting ready to go to college. He's on his way to Brunswick Community College to play. And yeah, it's just, like I said, those two really just lit up the stat sheets this year. And I think Aiden Allred, even at one point, was leading some of these categories in the state in the middle of the season. So, we did stories on them early on. Those two just were by far, I think, some of the 2 best baseball, softball players we had in the county.
Yeah, what I had on my list was a Western Chatham County baseball and softball. There's a history of that in this county for years. Chatham Central is actually the boys' baseball team has made it to the state championship game and won it. So there's that history. And yeah, I had them on there. But again, you're the sports writer, so you got in on the individual players. But yeah, I agree. That's another good top 10 choice. We up to number 5 now?
Oh yeah, number 5.
All right.
Well, no, number 4. We're on 4 now.
Oh, 4. Yeah, my 4. Mistake. There we go.
Yep, 4. And this one, another memorable individual performance. This is Jack Anstrom winning multiple state titles this year. He added 4 state titles to his resume. He won the 2A boys cross country title in the fall. Then he came out and won the 1A, 2A boys 3,200 meter run and the boys outdoor. That was indoor 3,200 meter run, and then the boys outdoor 1,600 meter run and 3,200 meter run state titles. So now he's going into a senior year with 5 state championship wins under his belt. And the way he ran at the outdoor state title, both of his wins were by pretty big margin. He's really could just set himself up to go ahead and add some more for his senior year. And that's the goal of talking to him after those wins. So just hats off to a really great year from Jack Anstrom as an individual, just from fall to spring. Just he won a title in every running season this year. And I think that's really impressive.
Yeah, on my list again, my list was more general, so I had the track and field teams for all the schools because there were a lot of individual high-end performances, and it didn't matter if it was one of the bigger schools or even the smaller schools like which charter. So, yeah, they all performed well, and you highlighted some of you highlighted the best in the county. So, congratulations to that. So now we move on to number three.
All right. And yep, for number three, I got Woods Charters boys basketball team making their first playoff appearance this year. Definitely one of the biggest stories, I think, for the county as far as, a new face in the playoffs for basketball. With Woods Charter, they broke their single season wins record with 12 wins. And then on top of that, just talking to the team, I mean, it took a great deal of mental toughness, belief, and hard work with the team. And even head coach Leonard McNair, I don't think he told the team that they were able to. He didn't tell the team really that they were, kind of on pace to make the playoffs until the game they won. I forgot what game it was, but it was a specific one that pretty much clinched it for them. And I mean, they really just a story of just keeping your head down and putting the work in and just reaping the benefits of the results once it was all said and done. And they actually turned out they got Chatham Central in the first round. And in that game, I mean, they came out and gave Chatham Central a game in the first half, especially the first quarter. But of course, Chatham Central settled in and ran away with it. But I mean, it just a great 23-24 historical season for Woods Charter, and a great season to kind of build off of for next year, because they have a lot of really solid freshmen that from that team, a lot of guys coming back that could really build on that success and knows what it takes now to not only just win, but to make the playoffs. And now, I mean, the next step could be, hey, let's go win a playoff game next year. So we'll see if they'll make any more history in the next coming years at Woods Charter basketball.
Okay, I must admit this one I totally missed. It was not on my radar because I wasn't following them that closely. I think I was out there for one or two games. Yeah, I agree. Woods has done something they hadn't done in a long time, and it was good to see that. And but yeah, this one I was totally off my radar. But again, you've got the story on it, and it is one of the top 10 stories this year. All right,
Yep.
what do we got for number two?
All right, number two, we're taking it to wrestling for Seaforth Wrestling, getting over the hump and winning some wrestling state titles at the state championships this year. So of course we know they got their first individual team title at the individual state championships, but then they also got Josh Miller and Lane Armstrong winning state titles for their respective weight classes. I know Josh Miller been there before. He really wanted to get back and get over the hump and win one. He finally did his senior year. And Lane Armstrong, Coach Armstrong's son, got his first one, and he'll be coming back for the Hawks. And they have a really good team. And some other guys have performed really well at the state championships that will be looking for their first state titles for next year. But also too, I mean, they even got to the dual team titles against Trinity, and that was a really close match until kind of the end. It kind of got away from them, but I mean, that's another great year for them to build off of, and I know next year the goal will be getting that 2A dual team title that they were just short of getting this year. But yeah, finally triumphing. And I think Gene, you kind of heard from Coach Armstrong and the team this year. I mean, they kind of had a feeling that this was the year. And I know for years since starting the program, they've had a feeling that they were going to have a special program with the kids they had, and I mean, they finally got some rings out of it. Gene, you still there?
Yeah, I'm back on. There was a slight interruption on my side. Yeah, I actually had I definitely had the wrestling team on the list because they did come back, and it's interesting that you mentioned it because Coach Armstrong said, hey, yeah, he's going to do this. He was hoping to get this done last year. I'm like, nah, I've seen schools that have started out and usually takes at least 3 years to go. I saw when Carrboro High School started out, they were getting beat up left and right and everything. And then starting years 3 and 4, they started going. So I had them on there. I also had all the championships teams as in the top 10. Again, I did a grouping more than individuals because you also had the golf team and the girls soccer team for for Seaforth. So those were on my list. And the interesting thing too is I've got a picture in the Chatham News and Record of Josh Miller, and I worked with his dad. Uh, this is when they had the competition over at Carmichael Auditorium. It was, I think, front page cover where Josh is looking at me, and behind him he's got a UNC logo because they were sitting in front of the scoreboard. But Josh is not going to UNC; he's going to NC State. So, Josh, you may see me over at NC State shooting some of your competition out there, so, and your challenges. So congratulations to Seaforth Wrestling to getting it all together this year and performing so well. Which brings us to number one. What you got?
Yeah, number one, and you kind of already mentioned it, Gene, but number one is the Seaforth girls soccer, just their dominant season as a whole. I mean, just looking back, I think you can argue that they were the most dominant team we had in all sports across Chatham County this year. I mean, from April 11th to a state title victory on June 1st, they didn't allow a single goal in regulation. And they went 14-0 in conference play and shut out every playoff opponent in regulation until then, of course, at the end of the state championship in PKs. But, I mean, they left, like I said, they left no doubt, I mean, of who the best girls soccer team was in 2A. And even though, that team is young, I mean, mostly sophomores, they got one senior, a couple juniors sprinkled in there. They're bringing back the whole team except the one senior. And we talked to Giovanni Viana, head coach, after the state championship win. I mean, the goal is to repeat because, I mean, I think Sophia, if I can pull up her stats right quick, I think from the year, Sophia finished the year with 68 goals, 47 assists. Kayla Ehrman, the two all-state selections from this year, she had 47 goals, 41 assists. I mean, they're bringing back all that production, just all the same, pretty much the same defensive production and that from this year as well. And they're going to be bringing up some kids from JV that are really good. So I think Seaforth is building a little bit of a little dynasty for right now with the young team that's already found the top of the mountain with the state title just already and 3 years in to existing as a program. So, yeah, Seaforth girls, hats off to a completely dominant season. And, yeah, that's my number one storyline from the year just because of how dominant it was. It ended with the state title. I mean, they pretty much stayed consistent throughout the entire season. And even in the Franklin Academy game, and Giovanni Viana was joking with us about that. I mean, in that game, they had the shortened field, dark field, the rain, and they even came out in that one 1-0, just on the same thing that's been working for them all year was Viana to Ehrman for a goal or Ehrman to Viana. Those two had the connection all year, and they'll be bringing that back next year.
Yeah, I think the number one choice is a good choice, and I think what you hit on at the championship game when they went to overtime, when they went to the penalty kicks, in between those segments, when they had the timeouts, I think coach brought him back for a huddle on just the initial timeout. And after that, he was just walking around to players saying, just keep what we're doing, keep doing what we're doing. There wasn't a whole bunch of their players know what they need to do. They've been successful doing it. So the coach really at that point didn't have to provide much huddle time to get them going. And they came out victorious in that game. The only other one that I had, and this is probably because I've been in the county for a while, is the fact that you've got a new football coach at Northwood and a new athletic director at Seaforth, who are both individuals who were student athletes here at Northwood. I think you and I had sat down with Coach Hall and talked with Mr. Mr. Worley over there a few weeks ago. And I think the feeling within the community, it's nice to have a couple local folks back who are familiar with the process. They're familiar with Coach Hall. They're familiar with Coach Pappas. And a lot of folks are hoping to see that continue. I think the other thing, too, is on Chatham Central's football. A lot of folks are happy to see that program under the leadership of somebody who's familiar with was a Chatham County student athlete, and yeah, sometimes those things don't work out, but a lot of times in a community, hey, we're only 70,000 folks here in Chatham County. That is a nice thing that folks like to see. So I'm hoping for big things next year. We need to wrap it up because we're getting into the 45 minutes here. Is there anything else, Asheebo, you need to say?
No, just once again, just want to thank everybody for a really great 2023-24 sports year. Getting excited for the next one coming up. We have some things working over the summer and before football season starts ramping up in the fall sports as well. But, just once again, thank you for allowing me to cover your athletes, your teams from youth sports to high school for this year. And like I said, looking forward to what's in store for the next 12 months.
And I say this very often. I'm happy, and I know that the county is fortunate to have Asheebo here. As he said, we're gonna probably take off until sometime in July. I've got to talk with Asheebo about some things offline relative to the start of the football season. But folks, thank you for always watching. Let us know. If you want, go ahead and comment if you see Asheebo out there. I think someone promised you a hamburger. I don't know if they ever delivered, but if you promised Asheebo a hamburger, get him a hamburger. He's still a growing young man, and he'd appreciate a hamburger. But everyone, thanks so much for watching. We enjoy the feedback. We enjoy doing it. Something we've never done before, and Asheebo has been a great sport. And continue to follow him on Twitter X at AsheeboR38. All right, folks, thank you very much.